watched the Q&A, and I just heard the bit about Pluto in the 12th house, and I've got this passage in the book's called The 12 Houses by Howard Sasportas, and it's exactly that. Pluto in the 12th house and Scorpio through the houses. With Pluto in the 12th, there is a pressing need to bring what's weak, hidden or undeveloped in the psyche into clearer focus. As with Pluto in the 8th, some people might be so frightened of being overwhelmed by the nature or intensity of their deeper drives and complexes that they exercise a tight control over these. However, very often it is not only neurotic urges which are suppressed, but healthy, positive drives as well. The psychologist Abraham Maslow pointed out that many people not only evade what they deem is negative in themselves, but also block what is godlike and laudable. He called this the Jonah complex, the fear of our own greatness. From my experience, certain individuals with Pluto in the 12th defend themselves not just against the so-called lower or carnal drives, but also against such positive impulses as the desire to develop their higher possibilities more fully, or to realize more of their innate potentials. To paraphrase Maslow, they are afraid to become that which they glimpse in their most perfect moments. Why? The answer, in a nutshell, is a death anxiety. All change makes them highly anxious because it makes the dissolution of what they already know themselves to be. Growth inevitably requires the breaking down of existing patterns or the letting go of what is familiar, and on some deep level they equate these kinds of changes with death itself. Part of them desperately yearns for growth and development, and yet another part mounts every campaign possible to ward off what they unconsciously feel is trying to kill them, until they locate and make peace with their deep existential dread of non-being. They will keep displacing their fear onto whatever comes along, which threatens to change them. Until they know they are afraid to die, they cannot fully live. Roberto Assagioli, the founder of Psychosynthesis, a transpersonal approach to human development, was born with Pluto in Gemini in the 12th. Feeling that Freud concentrated too much on just the basement of the human being, Assagioli devised his own psychological system to take every level of the building into account. The basic tenet of psychosynthesis reflects the meaning of a 12th house Pluto, that all the elements of the psyche, both dark and light, can be consciously recognized, experienced, accepted and integrated into awareness. Through dream analysis, introspection, therapy and various exercises and techniques, those with Pluto in the 12th can release the energy trapped in unconscious complexes and redirect it towards strengthening and building the whole of the personality, including their higher intuitive and emotional faculties. Provided they can track down and deal with their death anxiety, people with Pluto in the 12th are well equipped to search out what is weak, blocked, hidden or missing in the psyche. Indeed, what more appropriate place for them to exercise the innate investigative nature of Pluto than in the house of secret enemies and behind-the-scenes activity? And rather than waiting for angry and neglected parts of their own psyches to chase after them, they are well advised to go hunting for these first. In the 12th, the destructive energy associated with Pluto can be used to remove that which is obsolete and detrimental to new growth. Or destructive energy can be improperly displaced and unleashed outwardly in a treacherous way, or dangerously turned against the self. The difficulty for those with Pluto in the 12th, however, is that they are not simply dealing with the personal unconscious, but with the collective unconscious as well. A contemporary medical model theorizes that noxious bacteria and viruses are always present in the physical system, but the healthy or strong person is able to defend himself or herself from these taking over. Similarly, stress is everywhere in society, but some people have a better ability than others to prevent it from getting into their systems. Those with Pluto in the 12th are more sensitive to what is dark, destructive, or overwhelming in the atmosphere than someone with, let's say, a well-aspect Venus in the 12th. While with Venus they may feel that love is in the air. What might Pluto sniff? Some of them may unconsciously be taken over by what other people have repressed. Sexual drives, anger, hostility, etc. It is not unlikely for a child with this placement, for instance, to take on the role of family scapegoat or identified patient. When tensions run too high at home, he is the one who gets sick or burns down the school. Starting a conflagration serves two purposes. It gives a concrete impression to the emotions he feels around him, and it serves to divert the parental unit from their own interpersonal problems. Those with Pluto in the 12th can make better sense of their actions and with their actions and behaviour, if they view what they do and feel in relation to a larger scheme of things. The 12th house represents the greater whole out of which we come and into which we are born. Pluto there has to contend with the less pleasant aspects of this inheritance, the collective shadow, that which society as a whole finds ugly or unacceptable. They may be required to acknowledge, integrate, and, if possible, transmute the anger, hate, destructiveness, and rage accumulated over centuries. In this sense, they are in charge of society's waste disposal unit. They either act out the collective shadow and thereby release this pent-up energy, or they gather it inside themselves and find some way to creatively transform and redirect it. Albert Speer, the Nazi who served as Hitler's Minister for War and Arms Production, was born with Pluto in the 12th, ruling Scorpio, on the 5th house of self-expression. He was somebody who supplied the weapons, in a quite literal sense, through which the collective's hate and aggression could be expended. Some people with Pluto in the 12th may work to transform outmoded institutions or campaign to change laws which are no longer functioning as they should. Often and sometimes in mysterious and obscure ways, they facilitate changes on the level of the collective. In a questionnaire composed by Marilyn Ferguson, author of The Aquarian Conspiracy, respondents were asked who had influenced them most in their lives. At the very top of the list was Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, with 5 planets, including Pluto, in his 12th. Assagioli was also in the top 7 mentioned. Periodic withdrawals from life may be necessary in order to grapple with emotional complexes which have been awakened through social interactions. They might be significantly affected through brushes with institutions such as confinements in hospitals or prisons. Assagioli, Pluto in Gemini in the 12th, was put into prison in the 1930s because his humanitarian and philosophical beliefs threatened the fascist government of Italy at the time. When he was released, he told friends that it was one of the most beneficial and creative periods of his life. The American writer O. Henry spent 3 years in jail writing some of America's best-loved short stories. He had Pluto in the 12th. As these examples suggest, Pluto here gives the capacity to transform a crisis into something productive and useful, or make the most of even limited or restricted circumstances. Assagioli wrote that it was most often during these times of crisis that a person discovered the will, Pluto, awakening to the knowledge that he or she is a living subject, an actor endowed with the power to choose. Even if those with Pluto in the 12th cannot change an unfortunate situation, they can still choose what attitude they are going to hold towards it. They have the ability to learn from failure and defeat, and to understand the necessity of one cycle or phase of existence ending in order that another can begin. In this respect, a 12th house Pluto recalls one of Nietzsche's sayings, "That which does not kill me makes me stronger." Even suffering and pain can have meaning if they make a person more whole. Scorpio on the cusp, or contained within the 12th, is similar to Pluto there.